You weren't even home. What's the big deal? That's what they told her, right before she shut the power off and watched the party scramble like rats in the sun. It was supposed to be just another Saturday. Quiet. Normal. But when Rachel Monroe pulled into her driveway, the gate she always locked had been left swinging wide open. She knew what that meant. Before she even rounded the corner, wet footprints, beer bottles, loud voices. And there, lounging in her pool like it was the public YMCA, were people who didn't even know her name. What Rachel did next didn't just reclaim her backyard. It reminded her entire neighborhood what the word, respect, was supposed to mean. Because she had warned them, she had asked, and when no one listened, she made damn sure they wouldn't try it again. Thank you for being here. Sometimes, the smallest moments carry the greatest meaning. Today's story is one of those, quiet, powerful, and worth remembering. If it touches your heart, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like more stories like this, you're warmly invited to subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss the next one. Now, let's take a closer look at what really happened. Rachel Monroe had built her life one brick at a time. She wasn't rich. She wasn't flashy, but she was proud. At 43, she owned a modest 2-story home in Granite Hollow, Arizona, a quiet suburb where the streets curled like question marks and palm trees whispered over wooden fences. Her place sat at the end of a deep sack. Not big, but clean, painted in soft sand tones with a red, tiled roof and trimmed hedges that smelled faintly of rosemary after it rained. But in the back, that was her world. Her backyard was more than a slice of property. It was her sanctuary, a square of peace in a world full of noise. At the center of it stood her greatest luxury, a crystal-clear, turquoise pool. She had saved for 5 years to install it, scrubbing houses on weekends, working overtime at the clinic, skipping vacations others took for granted. And when the day finally came and the last tile was laid, she cried. Not because it was fancy, but because it was hers. The pool was where she read after work, where she took slow dips at sunrise, where she listened to the breeze and reminded herself she'd made it on her own. She didn't ask for much. She didn't host parties or barbecues. She just wanted quiet. A little corner of stillness in a world that never shut up. The neighborhood wasn't bad. Granite Hollow was made up of families mostly. Some old-timers who'd lived there since the 70s, others younger couples with scooters on the lawn and chalk on the sidewalk. It wasn't a nosy place. People waved, nodded, but mostly kept to themselves. And Rachel liked it that way. She wasn't cold, just private. She didn't need potlucks or block parties. Just peace. But peace doesn't always last. The first time it happened, she tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. It was a Saturday. Hot, Arizona hot. The kind of heat that sticks to your throat and makes even the breeze feel tired. Rachel had been out early, errands, groceries, a quick stop at the hardware store. When she returned home around noon, something caught her eye. Wet footprints. They started at the back gate and trailed toward the sidewalk. She stopped, looked closer. A soggy beach towel hung haphazardly over her wooden fence. Her pulse picked up. She walked to the backyard. The gate was unlatched, and the water line was lower than usual. The pool float had been moved, and sitting on her lounge chair, like some half-hearted trophy, was a half-empty soda can. Someone had been in her backyard. Someone had used her pool. She stood there for a while, one hand gripping the doorknob, the other on her hip, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe a kid snuck in, got scared, left in a hurry. But the feeling wouldn't shake. Later that day, she walked down the block, asked around gently, "Hey, did anyone notice anything strange earlier? Someone maybe hopped the fence?" The answers came casual light. "Oh, probably just the neighborhood kids." One woman said with a laugh, "You know how they are." A man polishing his car down the street didn't even look up. "You've got a nice pool, Miss Monroe," he muttered. "People notice." Something about the way he said it made her skin crawl. But she didn't push, just nodded, went back home, and that night she tightened the padlock on her gate. Twice. She hoped maybe that would be enough. It wasn't. It was the following Sunday. Rachel was folding laundry when she heard something. Splashing. At first, she thought it was the filter, but then came laughter. She froze. Heart climbing her throat, she stepped to the patio door and peeked through the blinds. There, right there in her pool, was a teenage boy, swimming like he'd paid rent. A girl, maybe 13 or 14, dangled her feet at the edge like it was a public pool. Rachel flung the door open. "Excuse me." The boy bolted upright. Water sloshed around him. "I thought," he stammered. "You didn't think to ask," Rachel snapped. The girl mumbled something about living just 2 houses down, before the two of them scrambled out the gate like rabbits. Rachel stood there, towel in hand, her heart pounding. What was happening? The next day, she did what any rational adult would do. She walked over to their house, politely knocked, ready to explain the importance of boundaries. She was not prepared for the response. "Oh, come on," the mother laughed, sipping iced tea on her porch. "They're just kids. It's hot. What's the big deal?" Rachel blinked. "The big deal," she said slowly, "is that it's my property, my home, my pool. And I don't remember inviting anyone over." The father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "You're being dramatic." Dramatic, the word hit her like a slap. Rachel didn't yell, didn't threaten. She went home. And the next morning, she installed 2 outdoor security cameras, one facing the gate, the other aimed directly at the pool. Maybe that would send a message. Maybe. But deep down, she knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Not with neighbors who saw nice things as community property. Not with kids who thought just being kids was an excuse to violate someone's peace. No, Rachel Monroe's war hadn't started. Not really. But it was coming, and when it came, it would leave a mark. 2 weeks passed. No towels, no splashing, no shadows behind the fence. For a while, Rachel thought maybe, just maybe, the cameras had done their job. Then came Saturday. The kind of scorching day that turned pavement into a stovetop. The kind where birds didn't sing, dogs didn't bark, and even the breeze seemed to avoid touching your skin. Rachel had been out. Just a quick run to the hardware store. Nothing urgent. Just needed a new hose nozzle and some gardening gloves. When she pulled into the driveway, something didn't feel right. She parked, turned off the engine, and sat very still. The side gate, the one she always kept double locked, was cracked open. Her hand tightened on the steering wheel. A hot flush rose in her chest. She didn't move immediately, just stared long enough to feel her stomach knot. Then she got out. Keys in one hand, phone in the other. She walked quietly to the backyard and froze. Her yard was full of people. Not kids, adults, grown men, women in wide, brimmed hats. Someone's uncle leaning on the pool edge with a red Solo cup. 2 teenagers blasting music through her outdoor speakers. A folding table had been dragged from somewhere, laid out with chips, cookies, juice boxes. There was even a cooler. They had brought a cooler. Her lounge chairs, occupied. Sunscreen bottles spilled. Someone's Bluetooth speaker sat buzzing near her succulents. And in her pool, 6 people, laughing, waiting, relaxed like it was their damn hotel. Rachel couldn't breathe. She blinked hard, once, twice, as if maybe it would all just vanish. But no, this was real. They had thrown a full-blown pool party in her backyard. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. A voice cut through the noise. "Hey, girl." It was Sandra Keller, 3 houses down. The woman Rachel had only ever exchanged polite nods with. Now waving like they were old friends. "Hope you don't mind," Sandra shouted. "It was so hot today, we figured we'd cool off." Rachel didn't answer. She walked forward, step by step, and when she spoke her voice didn't rise, it cut. "Every single one of you get out. Now." They froze. A man dropped his beer. Someone muted the music. Chairs scraped. Bare feet shuffled. Sandra blinked, then gave a soft, condescending chuckle. "Rachel, don't be like that. It's just a pool. You weren't even home." Rachel's jaw clenched. "It's not just a pool," she said slowly. "It's my pool. My house. You don't live here. You don't pay for it. So, get out." A teenage boy muttered, "Jays, what's her problem?" Rachel heard that. She turned, walked to the pool equipment box, pulled out the remote. Silence. The filter cut off. The fountain died. She yanked the speaker's power cord. The music vanished. "I'm calling the police," she said. That got them moving. Towels gathered. Coolers dragged. Cookies dropped. Nobody said thank you. Nobody said sorry. Sandra, however, had one last word. As she passed by Rachel still dripping in her sundress, she rolled her eyes and muttered, "You don't have to be so uptight. Nobody was hurting anything." Rachel didn't answer. She shut the gate, locked it, and stood there for a long time, hands on hips, chest rising and falling, not with sadness, not even with rage, just certain this was war now. She had tried everything, being nice, being firm. Cameras, locks, nothing worked. So now, she was going to get creative. That night, she sat at her kitchen table and pulled up the camera footage. She watched them enter. The way they moved like it was owed to them, the way Sandra waved from the deep end like she was hosting. Her fingers tapped against the glass. No anger now. Just resolve. They wanted a free water park. Let's see how they liked the exit policy. The next morning, Rachel went to the hardware store. 2 new heavy-duty padlocks, one for the side gate, one for the equipment box. Then she went online. She wasn't searching for chlorine. She was searching for something called pool dye. Not dangerous, not harmful, but very effective. See, there's a trick some public pools use when teenagers sneak in at night. A harmless chemical that turns the water bright green when someone pees in it. Rachel ordered a bottle. Express shipping. Then she texted an old friend who worked maintenance at the county fairgrounds. "Do you have any of those old hazardous chemical containers?" "Sure," he replied. "Why?" "Just need a little visual deterrent," she typed, with a smile. By Thursday, her plan was complete. She'd written a sign, had it printed on metal, paid extra for reflective paint, drilled it right into the fence. War pool chemically treated. Unauthorized use may result in rash, severe itching, or temporary skin discoloration. Was any of that true? Not really. But they didn't know that, and just to sell the illusion, she placed the empty chemical drum near the pool pump. Hazard tape. Duct-sealed cap. She even smudged the label a little for authenticity. Then she waited. The next afternoon it happened. 2 teenagers walked by. Stopped, stared at the sign. One of them pointed. The other whispered. They glanced at the chemical drum. Then they turned around. Didn't even try the latch. Rachel, sitting by the window with an iced tea, smiled. That night she got a visitor. Sandra again, walking her Pomeranian. She stopped mid-step when she saw the sign, pulled out her phone, took a picture, typed something. Rachel checked Facebook later. There it was. A new post in the Granite Hollow Neighborly News group. FY. Looks like Rachel Monroe's added some kind of weird chemical to her pool. The sign says it causes rashes and skin stuff. Not sure how safe that is. The comments started rolling in. OMG, what if it leaks into the grass? That doesn't sound legal. Why does she even care so much? It's just water. Rachel laughed. They weren't mad because she lied. They were mad because they couldn't get away with it anymore. But she wasn't done. Not yet. Because if there was one thing she'd learned about people, it's that some of them only understand force. And Rachel had one last surprise for them. It happened on a Thursday, the kind of dry evening where the sky turned gold and the air smelled like sunburned dust. Rachel had just poured herself a glass of cranberry iced tea. She was planning to sit by the window, watch the light settle over the fence line like it always did this time of year. That's when she heard it. 3 knocks. Sharp, impatient, too loud for a neighborly visit. She set her drink down and walked to the front door, paused, then looked through the peephole. It was Sandra, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes already rolling. Rachel exhaled slowly, braced herself, then opened the door. "Evening," she said, cool as glass. Sandra didn't waste time. "We need to talk." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Do we?" Sandra huffed, took a step forward, but not across the threshold. "I don't know what your problem is, Rachel, but people are saying you put dangerous chemicals in your pool. That's sign the barrel. It's scaring kids." Rachel didn't blink. "I did," she said smoothly. "To keep uninvited guests out." Sandra's jaw tensed. "You can't do that," she said. "What if a kid touches the water?" Rachel folded her arms. "A kid who broke into my yard." Sandra faltered. "That's not the point." Rachel tilted her head. "It's exactly the point." Sandra scoffed. "You're being ridiculous. You don't even have kids. It's not like you're using it. It just sits there." Rachel laughed once, dry, cold. So because I don't have children, my pool is now public property. Oh, come on, Sandra said, waving a hand. Don't act like you're some victim. It's just a pool. No, Rachel said, stepping forward. It's my pool. My yard, my mortgage, my water bill. My weekend spent scrubbing the tile grout while your freeloading cousin was out there doing cannonballs. Sandra's face turned red. If you weren't so unfriendly, maybe people would actually like you. That struck something. Rachel looked her dead in the eyes. That's your problem, Sandra. You think being liked means letting people walk all over you. Sandra opened her mouth, then shut it. Her arms dropped. She looked, for a flicker of a moment, uncertain. But pride's a stubborn thing. She straightened up, muttered, "You know what? Forget it." Turned on her heel. Stormed off. Rachel watched her go. Didn't follow, didn't explain. Just called after her. "Enjoy using your own hose this summer." The only reply was the jingle of a tiny dog collar and the hard stomp of retreating sandals. Rachel closed the door behind her and smiled, not smug, not cruel. Just certain. She'd been patient, kind, reasonable. They didn't listen. But now they had. That night, she slept better than she had in weeks. No worry. No anger. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that wrapped around your shoulders like a blanket. But Rachel wasn't one to leave a job half-finished. The next morning, she woke early, went to the garage, opened the box that had arrived 2 days ago from a landscaping supply site. Inside a motion, activated sprinkler system. She spent the better part of the morning installing it, disguised it well, low to the ground just beneath the flower bed. Ran a hidden hose. Set the trigger distance. Programmed the timer. She tested it once, a soft click, then a blast of cold water shot 10 feet in an arc. She smiled. Let them try it now? She muttered, but no one came. Not that day, not the next. A week passed. Then two. Rachel sat in her chair by the window, drink in hand. Sunlight catching the sign, the locks, the metal barrel with the fake warning. No more towels. No more strangers, no more entitlement. Just the sound of her wind chimes. And the quiet splash of water when she dipped her toes into her own pool. Alone. Exactly the way it was meant to be. She never did have to turn the sprinkler on again. No one jumped the fence. No one hosted another party. No more passive-aggressive Facebook posts. The freeloading was over. And not once, did she ever have to call the police, because that was never the goal. She didn't want trouble. She didn't want enemies. She didn't want drama. She just wanted respect. But here's the thing. Some people don't understand boundaries. Until you force them to. Rachel had tried it all. She had asked politely. She had warned. She had explained. And still they ignored her. But the second she flipped the script, the second she showed them how it felt to be on the receiving end, they vanished. People will take as much as you let them. It doesn't matter if it's your time, your space, your peace, or your damn swimming pool. If you don't set the line, someone will cross it. Every time. It wasn't about the pool. Not really. It was about something older than that, something quieter, something people don't talk about much anymore. Boundaries. See, Rachel Monroe never asked to be the neighborhood hero. She never wanted to make enemies, never set out to post signs or fake chemical warnings or install motion-activated sprinklers under her rose bushes. She just wanted peace. A simple thing, a yard to herself, a bit of silence on a Saturday, a pool she could dip into after work without wondering who'd left footprints behind. But in a world where just being friendly gets twisted into, you owe us. Sometimes silence isn't enough. She learned something in those months. Something uncomfortable. Something no one likes to admit. There are people who only understand ownership if it's backed with threat. There are people who see kindness not as generosity, but as weakness. And worst of all, there are people who will not stop taking until you take something back. Was she petty? Maybe. But she wasn't wrong, because nothing about what they did was innocent. Not the parties. Not the excuses. Not the way they gaslit her into thinking she was the problem. They wanted something for free, and when she said, no, they made her out to be the villain. And that's the trick, isn't it? You draw a line, and suddenly you're the bad guy. Not because you were harsh, not because you were cruel, but because you said no. So, Rachel did what she had to do. She took back her peace. Not with yelling, not with police reports, not with drama, but with clarity. She drew a line so thick, so bright, so obvious, they couldn't pretend not to see it anymore. And once they saw it, they stayed on the other side. Funny how that works. The pool is still there. Clear, quiet, still. It's hers again. Some afternoons she dips her toes in and just stares up at the sky. No music, no wet towels. No party guests who never asked. Just sun, water, and the sound of the wind whispering against the sign she never had to take down. Sometimes, the real danger isn't in the noisy. It's in the silence that follows when people cross the line and expect you to smile about it. Rachel Monroe didn't shout. She didn't scream. She didn't slam doors. She drew a line and stood behind it. That's the lesson. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. And when no isn't enough, you show them where respect begins and where entitlement ends. It may make you unpopular. You may be called difficult, dramatic, mean. But at the end of the day, peace isn't given. It's protective and it's paid for by someone brave enough to say, this far and no further. So, if you've ever felt used, overlooked, or quietly disrespected, let this story remind you you are not wrong for wanting peace. You are not wrong for setting boundaries. And you are not wrong for defending them. So what about you? Have you ever had to draw a line and stand firm when everyone else wanted you to bend? Have you ever been made to feel like the bad guy just for protecting what's yours? If this story touched a part of you, leave a comment. We'd love to hear your story too. And if it gave you even a little courage to reclaim your peace, to hold your ground, to say "nuff" when no one else would, then please subscribe, tap the bell, stay close, because here, we believe quiet strength deserves to be heard. And we're listening.